welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We are here to celebrate a very special individual who is marking 50 years in the gas industry today, our very own Bob Murray. Bob, we couldn't let this moment pass without some sort of commemoration. We are Skewb, obviously. So we would love to do a little This Is Your Lifestyle podcast recording with yourself. If you would please join me up here in our virtual podcast studio. What's the matter? Thank you, Shashi. So obviously we have...
Down as a near miss.
I know. So obviously we have lots of fellow Skewbers here. We also have your lovely wife, Kay, who has surprised you with a guest appearance. But there are a few more people. Obviously, your experience and your knowledge has transcended beyond these four walls. And so we have a few more surprise guests we would like to welcome to be a part of the day. Please welcome Kuchta, Russ Thomas, Mike Foster, James Ganendra, Kate Lazenby, and Nitin Patel. Obviously, we sent messages to people letting them know, and the second they heard, we rallied the troops, and everyone was more than delighted. And I think there's been quite a fair amount of diary rearranging, and I think the record is 2 hours travel today from Gloucester just to get here for this. And they said they wouldn't do it for anyone else. But obviously, Bob, you are such a special individual. That is the effect you have on people.
Thank you.
So, Bob, take us back to the why. Take us back 50 years ago. Why did you join the gas industry?
I started off with a different industry as a student apprentice. And it was a 4-year student apprenticeship. And I could see it wasn't going to go anywhere. But I finished it. I made sure I finished it. And Kay was my lovely wife then. And she said, well, go and do something else. Something with a future then, which will challenge you. So I looked around and I knew a couple of people in the industry. And so I applied, but I started again, right from the bottom. So, but this lady had the belief in me, and so off I went. And I had no idea this was going on. I'll never trust her again.
I know. You did actually say, I'm going to kill Kate this morning when I get home tonight. And I was like, you don't need to wait till tonight, Bob. You can do it in an hour's time.
She even did my lunch because I'm diabetic.
You did a packed lunch for him. Love that. She really lent into it. We got really into it. We had a whole plan for like getting around the Ring doorbell by me dressing as a trick-or-treater, but unfortunately we didn't need to rely on that. So talk to me a bit about what the industry was like when you joined it.
It was 1975. So it was around the time there was a lot of industrial unrest. The 3-day week was happening and things like that. And it was a challenging time. The trade unions were very strong, and quite rightly so in those days, because the working conditions weren't good. If you look at safety now, my son is in the industry, and when he joined the industry, his level of safety was there. When I joined, mine was there. So, but it's still not right because people still get injured, and that's not acceptable. So that was it. And I started at the bottom, and but there was a program. Quickly they sort of realised I had seen about me. And but it wasn't until I won the Supervisor of the Year that British Gas sat up, because it was a massive company. It was 110,000 people, every part of the UK. It was a complete chain from the wellhead to the house, etc. Then there were showrooms and all your appliances. So it was a massive business, but they were very inward looking. At the time, people just didn't do external things, and so I won this external award. And
you were in a local newspaper sporting a questionable moustache as well, which we have out front, if anyone would like to have a look at that picture.
I never thought about that, but my dad never had a moustache. Then my brothers had a moustache. 2 of my sisters did, but yes. So I was the only one that's ever had a moustache in the family. I don't know why, but yeah. Yeah, but Kay said my notes are so good you should underline it, So, but yeah, so it was that was like. But starting off, it was in a program. I literally signed my papers. I signed my papers in a place called Butte Terrace, and it had a building, quite a newish building called Snelling House, and it was multi-story. But the mainframe computer building was nearly as big next door. That gives you an idea that the technology that I was. I mean, everything was jackhammer, and there was no mini diggers or anything like that. It's no wonder we're all also in such bad condition now. But yeah, it was really, really. It was hard physical work as well, and then I spent time in the drawing offices and the program put together. But you never forget the cold nights, and where's Andrew Hopkins? He's just somewhere, I know he is. So there he is. Andrew will tell you all about those, and yeah, it's an amazing time to work. Andrew was an apprentice when I first met him. We had an interesting introduction, and but the important thing to me has been the people that I've met along the way, and and you have your battles with the trade unions and things like that, and when I was in the trade union, but it's the people that really make the difference in this industry, and just these guys have come today, and I'm flabbergasted, and the warmth and friendship you get from them, and some of the, it's been some tough times, I've had to deal with fatalities, but Kay's always been there, it's great for the glittering prizes when you're president of RG and things like that, but only she sees the times when, you really question you doing the right things when someone's injured or something goes wrong or you have an explosion, and but she's always been there for me, and I can remember once I was a young assistant engineer when I was running West Midlands, and Andrew was working with me then. And this young guy, he was on his first standby as a senior engineer, and he had a blow-in MP escape, so he called me. And so I said, you come. I say, I'll come to site. And it was a difficult way. It was a big, almost a civil engineering job. It was a broken out shut part of the M6. And anyway, so I was on it all night. And you forget, and we'll tell you that, your skin gets absolutely saturated in gas in the captains. And so I got home about 4 o'clock in the morning, and the dogs hadn't barked. I'll strip off in the hall. I'll go to bed, but I think quietly. So upstairs, and I got into bed, and Kate says the gospel truth, which she said to me. She was half asleep. She said, "Oh, you smell of 20% gas." I thought, I've ruined this woman's life. How does she know what 20% gas is? So that is the gospel truth, and she was half asleep. Me turned over, and that was it. So, yeah, even the tough times have been really amazing in this industry, because it's the people that you meet, and these relationships are life changing.
And even your own name, it was through the gas industry that we came to call you Bob, because someone decided, you're Bob, I will call you Bob, and you will henceforth be known as Bob, and you have, apart from the occasional Gandalf. Talk to us a bit about how the industry has shaped you as a person.
Yeah, it's quite. I was a chap called Chris Bleach, who was a real Svengali for me. He, when I was 26, I was a young supervisor, and Andrew knew him well. And he said to me, "Bob, one day you'll be president of the IGE." I looked at him and thought, he's on drugs. Crazy kind of thing. And it was him who christened me Bob. I first went to work with him as a district engineer. I said, "What's your name?" I said, "Oh, it's Robert Murray." He said, "No, it's not. It's Bob." I thought, "No, what do you call Bob?" Exactly it. Bob. That's it. So everybody in the industry calls me Bob, but Kay will never. She calls me Robert. I don't family too. So yeah, but I quite like Bob. So yeah, it's quite a little ring about it. Yeah.
Well, she's been throughout your side for the majority of your career, so it only feels right that she joins you now for a brief interview. Kay, please, will you join us? Kay Berry. Kay, you look exceptional. One of the benefits of knowing that this was planned was you look immaculate. You're even on brand with the balloons. It's just brilliant.
It just comes natural.
So take us back, if you can, to when Bob first started out in the industry. Give us a flavour of what a young whippersnapper he was.
Yes. Well, my sort of early memories, because the two eldest children were young, was we used to see him now and again.
Oh.
So, of course, because he was always off on these gas adventures and the explosions and the fires, Wales Gas were really top on all of that. So I'd turn on the news and there would be Mr. Bob running down. Quick, Ross, Natalie, your dad's on the telly. Come and have a look what he looks. Just in case you forget. So that was always, oh no, we're too busy. We're too busy.
Yeah.
Right, so look, there's your dad. Oh yes, give away, and off they go. So a lot of the time, Rob was just a visitor in between. So that's the earliest memories. Because lots of these incidents used to be more than one night, 2 or 3 nights at a time. And then I got fed up and making the tents in the lounge to try and entertain everybody. I'm thinking, when is this man coming home?
Yeah.
But yes, the reunions were fine because I could have a couple of hours off. But, yeah, so that is sort of changed through different roles.
Yeah.
And then we had all the excitement of what I call the Pontypridd years, where very involved with the local communities and the gas people, and they really took us into their sort of hearts and homes, and children used to mix. We'd meet up for all the occasions, which was really exciting for the kiddies. Of course, Rob couldn't be Father Christmas because they would have known him. So we left that to other people. But I think the community spirit was really strong there. And we were only there for a couple of years. Made a big impression.
Yeah, because you moved a lot
Yes.
through the years. So talk to me about some of the physical moves you had to make as a family.
Well, I think at that time, we didn't have all these wonderful phones, had a big sort of walkie-talkie thing. So it was on the radio, so I would not have a lot of contact. But because when you moved job, you had to be within a certain call time, meant you had to move. So we didn't collect a lot of junk at that point because we seemed to be constantly putting things in boxes and moving somewhere else. So yes, it was interesting moving around, just getting to know different peoples and fitting in. So you quickly learn how to make friends. So that's sort of come from that, and we've known people now that have made friends as we've moved on. You stay in touch, so you get a growing gas family.
Yeah.
That's been important.
I was involved in an explosion, and at the time I was working for a chap called Don Thomas, and I thought he hated me because he always caught me doing something I shouldn't have been doing. You know, when he used to say, supervisors don't go in the whole bar. Okay. And I'd be a really hard job one night, so I'd get in the trench with the boys and we'd be tight. And I said, muddy boy. Oh, Jesus. Yes, Mr. Thompson, out. I would come like an idiot. I say, on the phone, so, oh, yeah. And I said, he said, so why are you in there? I said, well, come on, it's a tough night, Mr. Thomas. And yeah, such a. I said, anyway, I said, so whoever laid this was a bloody idiot. I said, he didn't cover the joints. And the bloody idiot laid this. Oh, every time I touched it. So I was involved in this explosion, and it was on the television. And we didn't have mobile phones. We had radios in the vehicles and vans at the time. So Kay was pregnant with our young child, so she's seen this on the television. And they get special permission to patch her through from the phone in so I could talk to her. She said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. She said, what did Don Thomas say? He's all right, actually. She said, Muddy and Gummerfro said, Muddy boy, you don't need to talk to the HSC today. I said, I haven't done anything wrong, Mr. Thomas. I can do it. Yeah, but it's amazing how these characters, you know, and how they shape your career.
Yeah.
But he actually was probably one of my biggest promoters. But at the time, I just thought I could never do anything right in his eyes. Probably because I was the kind of person that I was. But
Kay, you kind of alluded to it there, but obviously it's Bob's 50th anniversary today, but it's a legacy that you've created as a family in a way. You know, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes, the moving, the sacrifice it takes as a family unit. When you knew this conversation was coming, so when you woke up this morning and Bob was saying 50 years in, and you reflect on Bob's legacy, what are you most proud of in Bob and in yourself as a family?
I'm most proud of Rob's mentoring, because he remembers all those early stages himself and sometimes just how difficult that can be. And that sort of drive he has to move forward needs to be satisfied. But now he takes great strength from trying to put effort and support to younger people coming through the industry. He really enjoys going back to those early steps himself and revisiting journeys with younger folk who want to come and break through in the industry. That's what makes me very proud of him. It's not just about him now. It's what can be achieved for anyone that has the ambition.
Absolutely. And just lastly, we were asking Bob, how the industry has changed him as a person. When you look at Bob's work ethic over the years and those values he's carried throughout his 50 years in the industry, what stands out to you about Bob, or Rob, as you call him?
Yeah.
She calls me other names as well.
Well, yes, she does. But just the PG ones today.
Yes, he's very determined. He might come across as sometimes quiet, shy. I do know the flip side, but there is a steely determination to get to his goal, whatever that is. He never gives up. It doesn't matter how many hours. He will get up and just keep pushing till he meets where he needs to be. And that stands out.
Amazing.
A real attribute.
Thank you so much for joining us. You may sit back down. Thank you, Kay-Murray. Okay, well, we've already asked these lovely people to come in, and they have kindly said they are happy to share some anecdotes and stories from their time with you over the years. So maybe we start with the longest journey. Russ, would you like to come join us and share a few words? Russ Thomas. I need the This Is Your Life theme tune every time someone comes up, but we didn't have time for that. So Russ, obviously you travelled more than 2 hours to be here, and you said you wouldn't do it for anyone else but Bob. Why is that?
Well, he's just such a special character. He's always got time for you if you see him at events, and he's almost like the father of the industry. Whenever I've been to iGEM events or gas events over the years, Bob's always seems to be there. So you always could rely on a friendly face to chat to, and he was always, somebody interested in history. Bob's just got so many stories. He is part of the industry's history itself.
Yes. And you actually had so many photos. A lot of the photos also came from Russ, who is obviously true to his historian nature, had collected all this data for us, ready to unveil today.
I couldn't work out which of the 7 dwarfs you were then.
Yeah, the pantomime picture of the dwarfs. You're definitely in there. We're just not sure which one.
I'll tell you to it.
How has Bob helped you on your journey as a historian?
Well, I suppose he's just been there to chat about events that have happened over the years, and most importantly, he's joined the panel. The history panel is very much something that's been in transition. A lot of the people on it have been from the gas making era of manufactured gas, and those people are sort of sadly either unable to continue, or maybe most of the people left in the industry now, that's a past recollection. Gas holders are probably the things that people remember now. So, and Bob's got that experience back from 1975. So.
And Bob, do you feel a sense of responsibility for that, for carrying on that narrative and sharing the stories with Russ?
Yeah, and there's so much that we can learn from those days, because Mike and Russ know that Town's gas was 50% hydrogen. So why everybody's making a fuss about 20% going into it now is just beyond me. It's purely political. That would take the equivalent of 3.5 million cars off the road if we went to 20% foreign trade. You could do it just like that. It's been done in other places. So, yeah, but no, Russ is amazing. I mean, his LinkedIn is, it's the highlight of my day. You see some of the things because, and I wondered how they got the photograph of Abraham and Works. Now I know
It was Russ. It was
it's Russ because that was the first place I was a district engineer. Was in Aberraman in the Cunnan Valley.
Where did you find that photo?
I gave it to him.
Oh, right.
Because I'd had it framed, and I thought, well, no, this needs to be kept so it goes into the historical panel. But actually, another friend of Andrew's and I's, John Davis, he used to be the gas manager's house as well on these works, and he used to live in the gas manager's house, and you can see it on there. So you remember John Davis, wouldn't you, Andrew? Yeah. So yeah, it's and there's so much we learn from the past. If you go to RGM House, and I could recommend everybody go there. You go to the Dennis Rook Library, and you can see the yearbooks going back to 1700, 1800s. And I'll pick a date, so that my birthday, 1955. And you go in, there's interesting incidents on gas holders. We were still having the same incidents, and it was all in these journals. You could the answers were there if you took the time to go and look. And I still go in there and have a look and pick a date. On Kay's birthday, whatever. I'm looking at. Oh my goodness, wow! There's just so much in there, so much knowledge in the industry, and it seems to go over a lot of people's heads. But it's definitely worth a visit. It is.
We try and keep it alive, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, Russ, thank you so much for driving more than 2 hours to be with us and for all the photos. Russ Thomas.
Good.
I haven't actually got an order, so it's just whoever falls into the trap of making eye contact with me next. Mike Foster, come on down. Mike, for those who don't know you, can you give us a bit of history into your relationship with Bob and how you know him?
Yeah, I started work in what was the SBGI, the Society of British Gas Industries, back in 2011. It seems like a long time ago, but compared to 50 years, it's nothing. And we're a member organisation, and somebody said to me, "Oh, yeah, you really need to get Bob Murray's company to join. Bob's a good guy."
Oh.
So I think I probably spent about a year and a half trying to
Courting Bob.
get him to join, and then we got him to join. Great, got the company to join. Fantastic. Next thing I know, Bob's on my board, so he's suddenly my boss. Then he's the president, and his input throughout that time has been immense. And the good thing about it is that everybody recognises the name Bob Murray.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to look at the sort of LinkedIn posts that you put in this morning and look at the comments. I mean, people absolutely get who Bob is through not just ourselves. We were SBGI when we changed our name to EUA. Bob was one of the first to champion that name because he could see the future was evolving, and it needed to we needed to change as a company. But he's been president of IGEM, he's been president of PIG, he's been president of EUA not once but twice. Now there aren't many people. I think Bob is the only person who's been president of EUA twice. So his contribution to the industry is an M. It's just sad, man. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
People know the person, but Bob is willing to put stuff back into the industry. He doesn't get paid to be on the EUA board. He does it. He gives back, and that's what we look for as an industry. Is we'll all chip in. We want the best for the industry, and it's through people like Bob who are always going that extra mile and putting that extra bit in, judging awards, mentoring people. I mean, no end of people I've come across. Bob Murray been my mentor. I don't know, but everybody has got that association. They know the person. They know what he's committed, and the 50 years. I mean, the celebration, Bob, to date, fantastic. But just the sheer length of time in one industry,
Mm.
you know, I don't know anybody else. You know, very few people I know have ever come close to that. So it's fantastic.
And people said to you, you've got to have Bob Murray on the journey with you. So what is the Bob effect that you've seen from bringing Bob on that journey?
It's that knowledge of the industry, because he's been there and done it, you know, in whatever guise. And Bob has spoken about his journey this morning, but, you know, he's got the experience from what he said, in the trench, through to, you know, working with the really senior figures in the industry. And he's got, I mean, I don't think filofaxes, but that's the names, you know, that he will have of people to contact, to be able to, for us, to be able to take that industry, drive that little bit further to the next stage. If we're in doubt, we want a bit of advice.
Yeah.
Bob's there, and on our board, you know, is a really good character to have on the board. He doesn't jump up and down and make a big song, but he'll chip in with an observation that will just steer the board in the direction that it needs to go in. And that's all I can ask for as the chief executive of a company.
And Bob, for you, what was it like to be courted by Mike all those years ago?
Well, we've done a podcast of Mike. He is amazing. And, you know, his career as a politician, the whip's office, a minister. So I've learned so much from Mike. They say there's a two-way street it is. And I'll give you an example of how Mike has held in this industry. When Shashi and I were working in another company, and you were our major customers. And Steve Fraser, who's now the CEO of Cadent, was the chief operating officer, and I would go and see him once a month because he was such an important client. And when he told me he was leaving to go to Cadent, he said, "Will you do me a favour, Bob?" I said, "Of course I will, Steve. What is it?" He said, "Will you introduce me to Mike Foster?"
Wow.
Now that says everything, doesn't it, about Mike? So Mike, you're a brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
And the only thing,
Bob.
one last thing I've learned about Mike, he always says, make sure you know the facts. So anything you publish, make sure the facts are correct, because otherwise, you know, you'll be cut to ribbons in that. And that's one thing I do. He does make sure anything he publishes is absolutely 100% accurate.
Well, thank you. And thank you to you, Mike, for joining us today. Mike Foster. Run. Kate Lazenby, would you like to join us? So, Kate, for people who, by the way, Bob, that water is for you. I just
thank
put
you.
some water there.
Thank
Kate, for those who aren't familiar, I feel like everyone in this room does know you, but give us a reminder of your history with Bob and your first encounter with him.
So this is lovely being here and celebrating what a great achievement. But we were just trying to work out earlier how I've actually known sort of Bob. So I'm part of the guild again. Bob sits on our board, and as sort of Mike's just sort of said, super supportive in the actual guild. But I think, and you've just reminded me while you sat there talking about your previous company, that we used to go and have curries there with the communications committee. So we are talking 10 years ago. And I think, you know, certainly from my perspective, I know Bob, obviously we're talking a lot about mentoring and supporting younger engineers, but Bob's also still a brilliant mentor for people that aren't also engineers, particularly with the guild. The guild obviously is across a range of disciplines, and Bob has just been that constant throughout, supportive, championing where you need to. You know, you've been chair. I think the Midlands branch, I've got a cracking photo of you actually with the Faulty Towers experience, with your kilt on. And just, I think Bob is just, as we're also saying here today, everybody knows him. You can't go anywhere within the industry without knowing Bob Murray. So,
And he is known for that mentoring and the Bob effect, as we've touched upon. For you as a leader in your industry, what are some of the leadership traits that you admire in Bob and might have taken on yourself as well over the years?
Oh, I think that's got to be his calm approach to things. So I've known Bob a long time, being Midlands branch chair, and then into this role as ED, he's been particularly supportive in that sort of quiet, calm, in the background manner. So yeah, I'm really grateful for Bob's personal support as
Now
well as
that you've said that, you both do have a very calm demeanour about you, actually. So you've channeled that
so
very
channeled
well.
the calm
You
Bob.
channel
energy.
that swan effect. Bob, it's great to have Kate, such a leading female figure in the gas industry. Can you remember the first time you met her?
Yeah, it was in the Guild's Midlands section. I'd be the chairman, and you could tell there was something different about Kate. She's highly intelligent. She thinks things through correctly. She absolutely believes in the Guild and what it stands for. And in many ways, the Guild used to have an impression about it, which people like Kate have completely turned around, because I wish Nick could have been here today, because Nick is the only second woman since 1863 to be president of IGEM. And that's not right, because in the Guild, they've had leaders probably 4 or 5 women in half that time have led the Guild. So the Guild is, in a way, is more advanced than IGEM is. So although it is 1863, I get that, but it's taken a long time to get 2 women to be president. But the Guild is much more advanced in their thinking about things like that, because the first dinner I went to, and Kay will remember, I bought my first dinner suit, and she was telling Natalie a bedtime story, and I walked in with my present. So what dinner suit I got to the dinner panel? You know, and Natalie's finished, and here he is, the prince. So yeah. So the Guild has been an amazing to help me shape my career, because again, it's, I said, it's all about the people. It's about the Mikes, and it's about the Russes in IGEM, and it's about this young lady in the Guild, because she exemplifies everything that's good about the Guild. She does. So, and she is a true leader as well. And the Guild has literally gone like that since Kate took over as executive director. So, and long may she be a success. So, yeah, I actually have to come off the board now for.
I know.
So
Just talk about this.
yes, yeah. So that will be a little hole in my midst.
Oh,
But
Bob.
there'll be something to fill it.
Well, we've already had you supported this year with the PDN scholarship.
Yes.
So it was the first thing we did this year with PDN scholarships. Never done that before, and Bob was super supportive with the interview panel. So we'll probably be asking for support next year as well.
Yeah.
Actually, in last week's Skewb Life, we put the PhD in. So
Excellent.
the Guild is doing its first
It
PhD.
continues,
So,
yeah.
as you know. So.
Yeah. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. Kate Lazenby. Ben, I'm looking at you next, even though you were looking away. Ben Kuchta, everyone. Ben, you kind of represent for me that mentorship journey and that relationship that Bob has built with so many in the industry. But for those who don't know you, can you just remind us a bit about the first time you met Bob and your journey and your relationship with him?
Yeah, so the first time I met Bob was in London, if I remember rightly, at a Gizga event. I was a bit of an entrepreneur at the time. You're laughing already. A bit of an entrepreneur, and I was desperately trying to get this. It was my first invention that I'd actually sort of gone from the drawing books into a real thing. And it was designed to turn off an appliance in a dangerous circumstance or situation. So I went to Gizga, as I was sort of pointed by folks in the industry. Oh, go and if it floats at Gizga, you're good to go. I must have delivered the worst presentation of mine.
Oh, no.
I was so nervous, but I saw Bob in the corner, and it wasn't until maybe like a year or two later, I think I'd entered the young person's paper competition. I've got a bit of practice in over those 2 years, and I think that's how we sort of bumped into one or another again, and it was kind of like, okay, there's something there now. We'll leave that car crash behind. There's potential, and that's sort of how it took off from there.
And you've joined us for a podcast before, and we've talked a bit about, that innovation side. You're a bit of a creative force. You've been an inventor, you're a digital first person. What was it that drew you to Bob for some of that inspiration on your journey?
What I was doing then, and still continue to do, it's always been quite diverse. It's been quite spread out. So I was talking to Russ about this earlier, actually. I mean, I've been on with National Grid for some time as a director, but at the weekend and a couple of days here and there, I've been working on steam trains, just because I can get my hands dirty, pick up the tools and get stuck in. And to a lot of folks, when I was growing up, that was odd. It's like, why are you doing that? You should just be an apprentice in this one thing, and you should just stay in your vertical and do what you should be doing, right? So I kind of felt that was against me, and I didn't want to do that. And when I met Bob, it was kind of like, oh, if you want to be an inventor, go for it. If you want to do this, go for it. If you want to do that, go for it. And Bob gave me the tools to sort of manage that and still deliver in all those sorts of buckets and get a real nice, broad and rich experience from doing all that sort of stuff, rather than just sort of feel like I have to be in that one vertical. And it was because of Bob that just kept that fingers in many pies and enjoyed my engineering career over the last however many years. So, yeah.
And you're well established within your career. You know, you're an industry leader now, but you would still turn to Bob for advice. Why is that?
Absolutely. I mean, 50 years.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yes. I mean, there's not many people. I mean, some folks have said this already. Bob is one of those that has 50 years of experience. There's no one else in my network or career that I've met that has 50 years. The closest person retired about 47, 46 years, but just stayed, and all they've ever done was fitter. They were a boiler fitter, right? So it's very rare to come across someone like Bob or someone like that. It's so rare, and to get that perspective, that life perspective, is equally as important as the professional perspective. So it's been very, 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 very valuable and good to know Bob over the however many years, nearly 10 years. Good to be a while now, surely.
Longer.
Yeah, it's got to be longer than that. But yeah, it's been really good for my career. and for me personally, because when you're chasing a career and you're doing all this crazy stuff, you know, to keep that work-life balance in check and make sure that's there through the ups and downs. Bob's been there when things have been a little bit difficult. So yeah, it's been very valuable.
And Bob, you've seen so many of your people you've mentored go on to international success, like Ben. You know, what are you most proud of when you look back at your journey with Ben?
Oh, he's an amazing young man. He is an inventor. He's a genius. He played down that CO lock. I mean, that has the potential globally to save thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. And he was determined. And not only did he invent it, he taught himself how to do patents. So he got a patent in the UK, Europe, and the States on this. So not only is he an inventor, and he's also a businessman. He was running his own central heating business when he was probably in his late teens.
He was 18 or something.
Yeah, so he's an inventor. He's a businessman, and now he's a leader in the energy industry. So it's this is, I keep saying, it's a two-way street.
Yeah,
because every day is a school day when you work with people like Ben, Russ, etc. It's great. And everybody asks me who is your best mentee, and I always say the same.
do they?
Yes, who is your best mentee, and I say the next one.
Very good, very diplomatic.
But I'm incredibly proud of Ben. He's, if he was my son, I'd be a very proud dad. I would. So.
Thank you very much, Ben. We're getting a little tight for time. Nitin, do you want to come say a few words? Nitin Patel, everyone. Nitin, you've still got your coat on.
I have coat.
I know. Thank you so much for joining us. Nitin is also one of the co-conspirators behind some of the photos you saw outside.
I saw it.
One of the ones hung up. How old is that photo that you shared? How many?
15 years. My ex-wife.
Yeah.
Should I say my partner?
Yes. So a lot of Skewbers will of course recognise you, Nitin.
Sure.
But for the newbies, the new Skewbers, remind us how you know Bob.
Right. I'm Nitin Patel. I met Bob early 2000 in Fulham. I've been in the industry for quite a long time. And Bob joined us at Fulcrum as part of the directors team to change the vision within Fulcrum. And my first encounter was reading this email from this director called Bob Murray or Robert Murray. And he put a really good note saying, welcoming everybody as part of his team. And that's my first, I brought back to him. I happened to meet him. And from then the journey began. As such, he was very calm, collective, and very helpful. What I found about Bob during the difficult periods within Fulcrum when he first came in is guiding. Even though you got the experience, his knowledge and skills set me in a different form. And it grew from there. And he always, one thing I liked about Bob was mentoring people within Fulcrum and outside the industry. And we grew very closely. And the next stage was we were part of the family. Bob became part of my family. My children, my wife, everybody knew Kate very well. And what it meant, he always said, I'm English, but I'm Indian as well. And I said, Bob, you're right, because he thinks very much as a human being and treats everybody equally. And the next journey was, I left National Grid, went to SGN for 10 years. And I come to very closely with Bob, and I happened to be leaving the industry, SGN, and he was with the company. And he said, Nitin, why don't you join me? So I said, okay. And the first person before I joined, he introduced me, was somebody called Shashi. So I said, who is this Shashi? But he said, you like him. So he said, let's have a meeting with him. So we came over, and I was sitting in this office waiting for this guy called Shashi. And I waited and waited and waited.
He was late. That doesn't sound like him.
Then we were sitting in this boardroom, and he was walking across because they had an office across the road. And I see this guy walking on the road. He said, oh, let's see, he's coming at 4 o'clock. My meeting was at 2. It is important to just keep you all posted that when Shashi doesn't turn up on time, it's nothing new. Just accept it. And that was my first encounter with Shashi. We talked about business, going forward within. And I thought, hey, this guy is smart, man. And Bob said, that's why I introduced you to him. And the next was, obviously, I worked for Bob, great guy. And one thing about Bob is he's got patience. He's got time, and he likes to give time and his experience and knowledge. I believe he wants to give back to the industry what he got from them. And it's a great pleasure knowing Bob. And I came specially today. I think he deserves it. I've been away. I just come over the weekend from holidays, but I wouldn't miss for anything for Bob. It was my pleasure. And thank you, Shashi. If I've upset you, get used to it.
Nitin Patel, thank you. Last but not least, James Ganendra, please join us. James Ganendra, next generation, you can talk a bit about that mentoring journey you've been on with Bob. We've talked a lot about his mentoring today, the legacy he leaves behind, kind of on behalf of the dozens, probably hundreds of people he's mentored worldwide.
Yes.
That's quite a lot of pressure. On behalf of these hundreds of people, what would you like to say to Bob?
Absolutely. So the way I know Bob is through mentoring. So Ben was actually my original iGEM mentor for to get my chartership. And Ben said, you've got to...
You need the Bob effect.
You need the Bob effect. So I feel in a sense, Bob, you're kind of a grand mentor. And if you wait long enough, you'll have a great grand mentor as well, potentially, you know, a long line of mentors. But what I can say, it's just an amazing, the pyramid effect that Bob has had on the industry through his mentorship and the influence and the legacy that he's left over the past 50 years. And I think one thing that has stuck with me throughout both in our mentoring sessions and also, I guess, hearing about him and hearing also case stories about Bob as well is, I guess, the hero's journey. I mean, so when you think about a hero, the hero always takes, you know, the challenging path, the one with the high risk. It's often not the one people recognize, you know, initially. And Bob absolutely always seems to go for that, right? And does not take the easy path. I think that's something he's probably rubbed off on myself and all his other mentors as well. So, yeah, it's been a real privilege.
I love that. The hero's journey. You are our hero, Bob. And no, do another clap. And Bob, for you, you know, we've talked about that mentoring so much. Why is it so important to you?
As Kay knows a lot of, you know, my dad died when I was 11, you know, and most of my family, well, all my family then lived in New Zealand. It's just my mum and I. And I couldn't be a burden to her. So, you know, it's, so I had to get a job, and I was very lucky. And this industry has given me absolutely everything. It's given Kay and myself. It's, you know, it's done everything for us. And the mention is just a little bit I can give back to an industry and to people who've given me everything in life. So that's really the reason. It's just a little bit to give back. And as Kay quite rightly said, if I'd have had a mentor, then at my younger age in the industry, then yeah, things could have been even better. But no, I think they're so inspiring, my mentees, you know. And I was talking to Graham or Sam today, one of my mentees, you know, and the drive they have to become chartered incorporated, or EngTech. Carol's not here today, Carol McGregor. I take my hat off to her, you know, because she's worked so hard to get to incorporated, and hopefully in 2 weeks' time she will go through the professional interview. But I just find it inspiring to see, you know, how these young people and old people, because some stay in the mothership for a long time and they realize, oh crikey, I better get chartered for I'm about to leave. So to get the other end of the career scale, which is fascinating, I find, you know. So I've got quite a few bromances, you know, with some of the older guys in the industry. But and Nitin, you know, that was probably the toughest gig I had, was going into Fulcrum, because they'd sacked the complete board, National Grid had, and we brought in an inspirational leader called Richard Haddon, and Richard I remember this first time he rang me, there was a big reorganisation. He rang me and he said, hi Bob, he said, we met a couple of years ago. I said, oh yeah, Richard, yeah. He said, this reorganisation, I want you to come work for me. And you have to put 3 choices down. And mine were all traditional engineering. He said, they tell me you're the best gas engineer in Caden, in Transco. Crikey, Richard, that's a bit of a stretch, but thank you, whoever's told you that kind of thing. He said, I'll make you a director. And I went home and Kay, I'll tell you, I've crossed all my 3 choices out and just put him down, this chose down. And that's the kind of effect people have on you in this industry. But the great thing about knitting was I arrived in a place which was in a bad state, and we were actually told to close it. But Richard said, I believe me and you can turn this place around. And it nearly bloody killed me, it did actually, because there were so many things going wrong in that business. And I know this is being recorded, so I better not say too much more about that. But one thing I had with knitting was I had 100% trust in him, because he'd seen the things that had been going on there. He didn't agree with it, and he backed me 100%. He did, and you know, I got rid of 30% of the management, you know, because they were just not the right people, kind of thing. And that was a tough gig, that was. But I had people I was lit in, and I knew I could trust him. And then James now, he's going off on a new journey, And I just find that fascinating.
What's the new journey?
So I've joined them as Chief Transformation Officer for renewable energy development.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
with Bob's help and advice.
Very well done. Very good.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, he's left National Gas and he's
Yeah.
out there in
Yeah.
the world. So yeah, I'll follow his career with great fascination, and I know he'll be a great success, because the people that start these journeys towards professional registration, it's not easy, no matter what level it is you go at, and to get to the end of that journey, you've got to work hard for it, and that's why I admire them all, and that's why I do say the next one will be the best.
I don't think Ben's very happy with that, because I was the next one. So
James has been like, say me, say me.
No, he knows he's very special. He is very special. You don't very often have an inventor, a businessman, a genius as a mentee, and if that doesn't rub back off on me, then
Well, and James too. I mean, all your mentees are so unique, coming from utilities in Malaysia across to the UK, as Bob touched on before, there's so much reverse mentoring that goes on with all his journeys, which I saw through your podcast together. So James, thank you for speaking on behalf of all the mentees everywhere.
Absolutely.
James Ganendra. Right, we are nearly at the end, but there is obviously one more person we need to hear from. Shashi Seshadri, please will you join us? So before we get some closing thoughts from Bob, Shashi, I mean, Bob is the godfather for all of us. He is that mentor figure. For people who don't know, how has that shaped the growth of the very company we work for at Skewb?
Yeah, quite profound, isn't it? Because I know Bob for close to 20 years now. I don't remember when I met him first, but I do remember a Saturday or about August, September, when I had to do a smart metering bid. I had no flipping clue where to start from. And then on Friday, I said to Bob, Bob, I don't know how to progress with this. And then he said, well, okay, let's put in a shift tomorrow. And I think that Saturday I still remember.
I do.
Yeah, you remember we were doing all those EDF energy productivities and
Covered the whiteboards.
cover the whiteboard with it. And I mean, some of that work was quite path-breaking actually. Yeah, there's sort of lots of flashes, like that Saturday was a brilliant Saturday. I mean, I dread going to awards because you got to wear a black tie, right? I only go mostly when Bob's around, because generally when we land at Utility Week Awards, I always ask him, which room are you in? Because I don't know how to knot a tie.
Oh,
So I will always not even carry one. He'll carry one for me. So when we're about to go down, I'll go to his room. He'll sort it. We go down. There's sort of many traditions I have no flipping clue about. But he's taught me lots of things through the years. And yeah, I mean, my parents are back in India, isn't it? So for me, it's like, anytime I think I'm unsure or I've got two options, I will always sit down with him. And it's true even today, isn't it, Bob? I mean, things when I'm sure, also I will say to him, I've done this, Bob. But yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes, and I think I feel a lot comforted in having a conversation with Bob and just putting through my point of view and testing it, and he'll tell you off when you need to be told off, but he'll do it very respectfully. And so it's only when you come out you'll be thinking, oh, flipping heck, that was a car crash, isn't it? He sort of said, you haven't thought about that and that and that and that and that. But yeah, I mean, it shapes, and I mean, we all talk about, mentees, James, all of that. I mean, if it gives you any assurance, when my kids came for WorkX first, I think Bob took Sid to IGM house. I think he slept on the way back, so which was good. I think you took Shraddha to Pig, isn't it, with Kate? But I think these are moments they will remember. I mean, Bob mentors my nephew in Malaysia, which is so I think there are times when Indu and I, there's times when Indu and I will say to Bob, can you just let him know this, like just a sign, because he's not listening to his parents.
Key messages and themes.
Yeah, so there's it is coming to the next generation now. The other day, a few weeks back, these are sort of things Bob doesn't need to do, right? He sort of, there's a family friend we have, and he's been mentoring the boy, and he lost his father quite tragically, and Bob lands for the funeral, like just things like that you don't need to do, but I think what they do is they leave an imprint for the person at the receiving end, and I think that's what we hear, isn't it? It's the consistency, it's the genuinity, it's the want, and it's doing it without expecting anything back. I think that's sometimes very rare to find. I mean, we all think there's something to come back, but I think with Bob, there's not a lot. He doesn't expect anything back. Or all he says is just keep me in the loop, right? Give me a bit of respect, and that's all. And it takes. We all run a race sometimes, but we sometimes forget to just do some small basic things. So.
And for all of us at Skewb, it's kind of a rite of passage. Like, you have to meet Bob. You have to meet Bob because he's a part of Skewb.
I think it's a blessing to meet Bob.
Yeah. Talk to me about his impact on Skewb, the impact he's had on this company and all the people in it.
I think his presence makes an impact. I think that's how I always say. I mean, I go back to first principles. As I said, my parents are back in India, so I left home very, very early in my life, and sometimes you need to have elders around you to just give you your grounding and your feet on the ground. And for me, Bob has always been that. I mean, I missed him a lot in 2018 and 2019, and when he fell, I couldn't see him because he was still with the previous organization, and I hadn't yet sort of resurrected. And then so I was hurt a lot by that time. I mean, he does lots of things, like he witnesses my I think when we took the British passport, I think Bob's our witness, isn't it? This is just stuff, like things just happen with Bob. Like, you just don't do things. It's not just work, like, you know what I mean? So I think Skewb is an amalgamation of many things. So he gives courage. I think that's how I would say. I mean, he's given me a lot of courage. Right?
Bob, all a bit overwhelming today. Sit in a room for an hour and list all the amazing things about you. I would love it, but for more humble people, might be quite painful. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts or reflections?
Just that it's funny that when your career's coming, long career, I think I've kept the best to last. Because I first met Shashi, I think it was 22 years ago at a social event with IGEM or some industry event, only briefly. And then when I left National Grid, I was running that IGT ID, and I was bleeding with our nerves were experts here. I was bleeding all over the floor in nerves were fines. And if you know anything about ID knows, 80-90% of the work is on site. So you're not even in the highway, but I was bleeding, and I'd been recruited rigorously into this company. And my eyes were starting to change colour with the CEO figures. It is having a huge effect, but was a very small part of our work. So I'd heard about Shashi and the company, and so I invited them in, and they built that nursery system. Kaizad was involved in that. Kaizad probably somewhere outside, but Kaizad was there, and and they built that, and that's still working today. Now it's owned by Brookfield Utilities. And now and again, I see the CEO, he's a good guy, he said, I didn't want the Annexus Group, I wanted your reinstances. I have a good laugh about that. But it is that sums up Shashi's deliver. It's always about delivering the best for customers. And that system's now got about nearly 5 billion connections on it in water, gas, electricity, fibre. But that's the kind of stuff that Shashi always does. He always delivers the best for the client. And it's been an amazing journey together. It has, and he referred to my accident too, and I just don't know what I've done about Kate. I mean, when you've smashed both your arms, you find out how much someone loves you. When you lose you around for 6 months, you know, I really found out how blessed I am. I'm blessed in knowing Shashi. I'm blessed in knowing him. I'm very blessed as having a wife like Kate. Because at the same time I had my accident, we'd taken on bringing up a grandson from birth. So she had a 3-month-old baby and this baby as well, kind of thing. So yeah, so thank you both. And yeah, I did miss you in those times, but we're back together 100% and never be separated again. So yeah, thank you. And to all Skewbers, you have no idea how much I enjoy coming in here and interacting with you all. And you're all very, very special. You're not in this business by accident. You know, you are the best of the best. You really are. And I must admit, you know, I find it amazing the people that joining the business. You know, I've had the privilege of being there from really from the start, where, you know, our offices were cafes and motorway services. Poor old Vince getting fined in the McDonald's car park for overstaying his welcome, and to see this today, it's, you know, I pinch myself every day, because that's 6.5 years to this, and that doesn't happen by accident. That happens by special leadership and the special people in this business. And I'm just so proud to be a Skewber. I really genuinely am proud to be a Skewber.